they're pretty open to begin with.
Right.
That's one of the things you notice at a dead show that's completely different. The opening act at a dead show is actually listened to. Whereas in other concerts, it's just something going on, it's background, while the people literally turn their back to the audience and talk to each other, or have a hot dog, or walk around, or sit on the phone. They actually sit down and they listen to the opening act, no matter how many they were. And that's the first thing that caught me. It's like, wow, they're actually listening to what we're playing. You know, like we played a New Year's show with the Dead Ones, with this band that I put together for it.
That's like their big show,
yeah.
The New Year's show.
And I had a band. I was in town actually playing with my jazz band, and I put together this band with Kevin Eubanks and Bob Hurst and Jeff Watts, and it was all this music that Kevin and I wrote in like the late 70s when the fusion thing was really big. And we just brought this music back out and called the band the X-Men after the comic book. You know? And we started playing all this music, this really wild sounding stuff that's really like that Mahavishnu bridge between like jazz and like advanced harmony. And when we never played it again, and I still have deadheads coming up and saying, man, that music you guys played at that show back in 82, I think it was, you know, when is that coming out on record, you know? And they have the tapes. That's one of the things I always did like about the Dead.
Yeah.
So you know, what is it about them that that creates that kind of environment where that can happen, that kind of openness? And
well, I think what it is, and you were right about them being really open to a lot of different kinds of musical experience. And it's more like, for them, the Grateful Dead were not teachers so much as guides. Say, hey, this is kind of cool. I mean, because the thing I was thinking of when you were talking about them coming to your shows, I did an interview a couple years ago with Mickey Hart when he was working with the Library of Congress. Now, he's really into ethnomusicology, you know, that taping jungle tribe music and folk music from all over the place. He spent money and time editing stuff of rainforest tribal music, and that was then released from the Library of Congress tapes. And he did it because he was really interested in it, but he also recognized that if Deadheads found out that Mickey Hart was into this, someone would go check it out, and it would get this music a bigger audience than it would have gotten if it just came out as a Smithsonian release. And I think what the thing is once you're in a situation where you're comfortable with the people in that crowd, and one of them says, hey, this is cool, check it out, you'll trust them more than you'll trust some guy in a suit on a TV show saying, hey, this is this is cool, check it out.
That's something about them, and I think as far as people going to check out more music, we'll be coming back to check out some more about Garcia's legacy and his life and what it all meant now that he's gone.
Albums that are currently in print ultimately are going to matter less than the concert tapes and so forth that are either in circulation or in the vaults. I mean, the Grateful Dead have amazing vaults for their own stuff, and I think the two releases that have been out on the Dick's Pick series are probably indicative of what the future Grateful Dead releases are going to be like, and if that's the case, yeah, Garcia's legacy will hold up.
Great. Scott?
Yeah, I agree with JD. I first heard Grateful Dead on like tapes of their shows for years before I even heard a Grateful Dead record, and I think that's the way it'll progress the same way for years to come.
Amy, what's your picture?
Well, I remember a couple of years ago I was in the studio with a Tribe Called Quest, and they were pulling all the records out of the crate that they were going to sample for the record, and they had like a whole mess of Dead records, and I went, what the hell are you sampling that for? And they looked at me like, you crazy white girl, what are you, nuts? This is the best stuff to sample. So I'm thinking maybe in some way that may, because they're not the only musicians I know who get that influence. I think that's how it may live on, through vinyl, that way.
Branford?
I'm in agreement with everyone here.
There you go. You can come back.
The live,
that's the kind of guest we like.
Yeah, the live tapes. I mean, the stuff that's going to come out of the vaults, it's going to be great.
Maybe Jerry Garcia's best legacy is the kind of freedom that he represented. Thanks for joining us on Four on the Floor, and thanks very much to Branford for coming here on short notice. See you again next week.
easy, but all you have to do is back off a little bit and the tires.
Colleagues, his peers, younger musicians influenced by the Dead, and the tie-dyed and true Deadheads themselves. The body of Jerome John Garcia, Jerry, was reportedly found at 4:23 a.m. Wednesday morning by a counselor at the Serenity Knolls Drug Treatment Facility in Northern California. While the coroner is conducting tests that won't be done for 2 weeks, the Marin County Sheriff announced that Garcia had died of natural causes. Grateful Dead publicist Dennis McNally told us he was surprised to learn Garcia was at the facility and said Garcia appeared to have suffered a heart attack. By Friday, reports were surfacing that with another Dead tour set for the fall, Garcia had checked into a rehab to battle a recurrent heroin habit, a problem that first went public with Garcia's San Francisco drug bust in 1987. The bearish Garcia had been suffering various health problems for the past several years and looked a lot older than 53. But in his time, he became one of rock's great guitarists and an icon of a band that not only symbolized the hippiness of the 60s, but outlasted and transcended that era. Here's a quick look back. From his spiraling sweet-toned guitar licks, you might never guess that Jerry Garcia had lost half of the middle finger on his right hand in an accident at age 4. With the Grateful Dead, Garcia would take a long, strange trip through rock history, during which Garcia became famous enough to have a flavor of ice cream named for him. And the Dead resolutely ignored trends and followed its own muse, which was equally at home with expansive improvisation or concise country's tunes.
This music comes off authentically as itself. That is to say, it's hard to say really what exactly it is. It's electric music with drums. It's like rock and roll, you know. It has the same instrumentation, but it's really Grateful Dead music, whatever that is.
With Garcia as main songwriter and lead instrumentalist, the Grateful Dead pioneered San Francisco's psychedelic rock sound in the late 60s. By the 1990s, the band, followed by several generations of Deadheads, was a thriving counterculture corporation, earning $15 to $20 million a year and placing in the top 20 of Forbes magazine's annual list of entertainment moneymakers. Everything was going along just fine until July of 1986, when Garcia, after undergoing drug treatment, slipped into a near-fatal diabetic coma for 5 days.
It is so weird to wake up in the hospital, you know, and find out later that you'd been out for many days, you know, and it's just, you know, what happened, you know, it's that kind of thing, and that's definitely strange. The rest of it has been mostly has exposed me to the tremendous depth of affection from Deadheads and all this concern, you know, that came pouring out of everywhere, you know.
The coma and an early 1987 drug bust were followed by the good news of the Dead surprise smash hit, Touch of Grey. Then in August of 1992, the Dead had to cancel a tour for the first time ever, when Garcia was hospitalized with lung disease and an enlarged heart. Garcia agreed to quit smoking, start exercising, and go on a diet.
I had some serious health problems, but it's nothing that that isn't reversible given lifestyle changes, and the threat of death is always a powerful incentive.
The Dead were back on the road in December of 1992 and seemed set to stay out there indefinitely, despite Garcia's car accident last winter and a pinched nerve in his shoulder suffered while scuba diving last March. Garcia had long since put the future in perspective.
I don't expect to live forever, you know what I mean, but geez, I don't know. I don't think about it very much, you know. It's just, as long as it seems like there's things to do and that there's fresh possibilities and they keep popping up, and I mean, it's just, years are flying by now, you know. Zip, zip, you know. I mean, it's just, but it's not at all dull, you know. And it hasn't even started to get, it's not even started to look like it's going to get that way.
Jerry Garcia leaves behind his wife of 18 months, Deborah Coons Garcia, and 4 daughters, aged 6 to 32, from previous relationships. A source close to us and the band told us there was a funeral on Friday. One of the most remarkable and remarked upon aspects of the Grateful Dead phenomenon is the sense of community the band helped foster among its legions of followers, the Deadheads, who trekked after the band from city to city on its seemingly endless tours. Wednesday night, from coast to coast, Deadheads gathered in public parks for spontaneous candlelight vigils in Garcia's memory, sharing their grief communally, just as they'd enjoyed his music. We spoke with some of them in San Francisco and New York City.
He gave everything he had and just burned out at the end.
He captured all the best spirit of the human qualities, you know. He could make you laugh, cry, sing, you know, believe in God beyond a shadow of a doubt, you know. He was real.
Well, he just touched so many people, and he touched me, and it's a part of my history.
Even though he's gone, hopefully the spirit of the music and the peacefulness will live on.
I wish they would have some type of revival, or at least try to continue it, because that was part of the whole thing, is going to the shows and hanging out and just joining everybody. It was all peaceful.
We just wanted to come down to pay respect, kind of, to Jerry. My mom and I are deadheads.
It's like I feel like I've lost a lot of, like a big part of my youth, and that's really what he represents to me.
The songs are about basic things in life. Love, you know, life was, it was all about how people were feeling, how people of all ages feel the same thing. It's the truth, and that's what they sang.
Other people, I think, feel the same way, that Jerry was, you know, talking to me and helped me straighten out a lot of things in my life just by being there and listening to the music and dancing. That's what it's all about.
They sound like old hippie values, but peace and love and music were, the, you know, to me, the three central things that Jerry Garcia promoted.
Going to a show it's a microcosm of something that isn't available in most people's everyday life. And to have that, and now it's gone.
I actually received my fall tickets this morning. It's kind of beat.
I got up this morning with my coffee and checked my email and noticed there were about, 75 letters there.
I cried like he was like my father, like he was like someone real close to me.
I'm sad that nobody else in future generations got to see it.
I went to some shows pregnant, and some people would say, oh, you should bring your kids to shows, and I just wanted to wait till they were a little bit older, and I kind of regret it now.
I think the Dead as a band are done. I mean, we're a tour. Maybe they'll tour in different incarnations like they always have, but they'll never call themselves the Grateful Dead again. It would be a sham if they did.
For many, it seems inconceivable that the Grateful Dead would continue touring without Garcia. And when we asked publicist Dennis McNally about that on Wednesday, he could only say, quote, I don't know. As we went to tape this show Friday evening, the band had yet to issue a statement about its future. Arista Records reportedly has a double live Grateful Dead album recorded in Germany set for release this October. There'll also be released a Deadhead documentary film called Tie-Dyed, Rock and Roll's Most Dedicated Fans. And by the way, the term Deadhead was not coined for the band's followers. It goes back to the Middle Ages, when alchemists used it to describe the residue of distillation. By the mid-19th century, Deadhead had come to mean one who travels free, eats free, or especially goes free to a place of entertainment. Over a century later, the Dictionary of American Slang and Colloquial Expressions included the definition, a follower of the Grateful Dead rock group. That information comes from the book Skeleton Key, a Dictionary for Deadheads, whose co-author David Shank will join us after the break when our tribute to Jerry Garcia returns. We'll also have reactions to Garcia's death from some musicians such as Blues Traveler and the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Dave Matthews, and Carlos Santana. Don't go away.
Hi, Steve, it's me. I can't come over tonight because I'm...
Welcome back to our MTV News special, a tribute to Jerry Garcia. We'll be joined shortly by Grateful Dead historian David Shank.